welcome to Leeds Hacks News. I'm Zoe Merry.
And I'm Katie Lyons, and here are today's headlines.
West Yorkshire Police have launched a campaign to tackle drink driving.
Leeds experts have revealed that houseplants have a positive effect on mental health.
And homeless charities raise money for those sleeping rough this winter. But first,
more than 3 million people have registered to vote since the general election was called. The Electoral Reform Society said that the overall figure for registrations is 38% higher than the same period in 2017, and more than 2/3 of applicants are from people aged under 34. Paul White, Project Officer and Lecturer, is here to give us an insight into what it all means. Good afternoon, Paul, and thanks for joining us. So what do you think has caused a spike in interest in the upcoming election?
I think there are a lot of factors really. In terms of political participation, there have been studies to suggest that voters are much more likely to participate when, under certain conditions. For example, if there is a clear difference between the two parties, if we have kind of conditions where the two main parties are perceived as being kind of quite close together and there's very little to choose between them, which might have been the situation perhaps back in the early 2000s. We saw the lowest electoral turnout for many years in 2001, for example. When there's perceived to be a major difference between the two parties, which of course there clearly is at this moment in time, quite polarised, then we expect to see greater participation. I mean, that has been, that trend has been showed on many occasions in the past, and not just in the UK. I think also the fact that the election is potentially perceived as being quite a close one is another trend which tends to increase participation. The fact that we had a hung parliament last time around, the fact that the political situation is seen as deadlocked, I think all of that is obviously going to feed into it. Brexit is obviously the huge issue. Ultimately, the whole issue has really galvanised interest in politics, and not just the issue of Brexit, not just the referendum alone, but the political stalemate, the animosities which have really arisen around the whole question over the last.
And do you think younger people are more engaged in politics than ever before?
I'm not sure about ever before, but certainly than probably at any time in the last 20 or 30 years. And again, I think a lot of that, not all of it by any means, but some of that is around the Brexit issue. We saw in the last election, certainly in 2017, we saw a spike in younger people voting. It's still not matching though the numbers of the older generations, but compared with 2010 and particularly compared with 2001, I think we've seen a significant increase in engagement, yes.
And what impact do you think these numbers have on the next result?
It's difficult to say, because ultimately registering to vote is one thing, turning out and voting is another. And young people, again, in the past, the situation was better in 2017, but still, young people not tending to vote, based on past experience, not tending to vote in the same numbers as older demographics. So it remains to be seen whether registrations will turn into votes. Obviously, if they do turn into votes, then that is going to be good news, particularly for Labour, and not good news for the Conservatives. But there are so many factors in play in this election. And
well, thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today.
Problem.
Thank you. Cheers. West Yorkshire Police have released a campaign urging people not to drink drive over Christmas.
the force will be using a hashtag to highlight the potential cost of being caught drink or drug
If you're
driving.
caught drink or driving, the best consequence that you can expect is to be arrested and put before the court. But we know that things are more serious than that, and actually consequences can be that you get injured or you injure somebody else, whether that be in your car or somebody else's, or worst case scenario is that you kill somebody. You have to then live with that you've killed somebody's son, somebody's parent, somebody's family member.
There is a shortage of people wanting to adopt and foster BAME children in Leeds.
the city is offering support to people who are willing to adopt or foster out of their ethnic group. Vishali Varu tells us more.
Children of BAME backgrounds struggle to be matched with adoptive parents or go into foster care. Cultural and religious differences can be huge factors when considering this.
The biggest challenges to BAM children is the lack of available adopters. So quite often we find that BAM children are waiting longer than most other ethnicities. So in particular, black children are waiting the longest. Research has indicated over 1,200 days to be matched with an adopter.
To tackle this issue, Leeds host events to support potential adopters and fosterers.
So actually our key message is that we want to support those adopters and that you will probably need support, not just at the beginning, but maybe when they go to school, maybe when they get to adulthood and they potentially want to trace their birth family. So we know that adopters need support and it's important that we're there to support them.
Adopting or fostering children from ethnic minority backgrounds may seem like a challenge, but Leeds offers a lot of support from adoption to fostering agencies. The most important thing is these children get a loving home and family. Vishali Varu reporting for Leeds Hacks.
As we approach winter, some people are feeling a seasonal depression, or SAD for short.
However, a recent study by experts here at Leeds Beckett has shown that being surrounded by nature indoors can improve low mood during the darker months. Our reporter Sean Turner went to find out more.
As winter sets in, the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer. With this comes a spike in poor mental health. SAD syndrome, or SAD, is a form of seasonal depression where people can feel lonely, isolated and lethargic. However, a study conducted by Leeds Beckett University found that by prescribing nature, like household plants, helped around 95% of participants involved in their study.
It's seasonal affective disorder, and it can affect people who are in the winter particularly who aren't getting enough daylight. I've seen that there is some research about bringing nature inside in that way, so I think houseplants is one way of doing that, and I think there's also some evidence, how that changes the air, in terms of the balance of oxygen and other elements, having those plants inside. But even pictures of plants and pictures of natural scenes have been shown to improve people's moods.
I think everybody experiences a bit of seasonal depression this time of the year. It is depressing to wake up in the morning, have 5 minutes of sunlight and then it'd be dark again. So I found that the best thing to do is kind of like put loads of houseplants around my room. Don't know why, but it just seems to help me quite a bit. I've read on the internet that it seems to help other people, so I thought I'd give it a go.
So, houseplants, even as small as this one, have been helping people with SAD syndrome in these cold wintry months. I'm Sean Turner, reporting for Leeds Hacks.
Christmas shopping is in full swing after the Black Friday madness and today's Cyber Monday.
But businesses in Chapel Allerton have launched a new initiative to persuade people to shop at their local independents. Ollie Wood reports.
With Christmas round the corner, Chapel Allerton has launched Indie Trail to get people shopping at independent businesses. The aim is to collect a stamp for every business taking part. Collecting 7 stamps will enter you into a prize draw. Well, I've got my map, so let's go inside and get collecting.
Right, well the idea was to get the businesses in Chapel Allerton working together. We have lots of people who shop locally and they tend to perhaps come to my shop, perhaps the fruit and veg shop and the cheesemongers, and then stop there, or maybe a little bit further down the road they'll have a few shops that they know and love. So the idea was to get more people to shop in more of the shops and also to bring people from outside of Chapel Allerton into Chapel Allerton. Also it's Black Friday, which is the bane of an independent retailer's life. We can't afford to slash our prices, so this was our kind of anti-Black Friday kind of trail that we wanted to do.
The trial begins on Black Friday as an alternative to slashing prices.
You have to kind of support independent businesses, and Chapel Allerton is a really good place where people support each other and just kind of get involved with that and sharing it with the community, showing that there is an alternative to the mass consumerism around, and like I said, finding something different, and it might be handmade, or someone's put a lot of time and effort and love into making stuff, and supporting that, and giving someone something different for Christmas is a nice gift as well.
The whole community are getting involved and the Indie Trail could become an annual event. I'm Ollie Wood, reporting for Leeds Hacks.
This is the 3rd year of the Big Sleep, where charities and residents of Leeds come together to raise money and awareness for the homeless.
Their aim with the Headingley event was to try to beat last year's total of £30,000. Molly Clayton reports.
According to the Office of National Statistics, Leeds has seen a 44% rise in homelessness since 2010. Charities from across Leeds are attempting to combat the issue with fundraising events. I'm here at the Emerald Headingley Stadium for the third year of the Leeds Big Sleep. St George's Crypt, St Gemma's Hospice and the Leeds Rhino Foundation is sleeping out here tonight with Leeds residents to help raise awareness and money for the homeless community in the city.
Last year we had 101 people, the year before we had 29, so it's just growing year on year, and we've got nearly 250 people doing it this year, and it's people who want to just show their support for other people in their own city. We're in our 89th year, and the needs for homeless people is still as prevalent today as it was back then. We want to do everything we possibly can to support people, but not just to support them, to help themselves.
3 men who have received help from St George's Crypt have come along to show their appreciation to the charity.
We're just raising charity for them so we can give back to what they've given us, you know what I mean? They've sorted our homelessness out. And then, like you said, we're in a drug programme that they put on offer. So we are cleaning that now and like just giving back to the place that's like helped us a lot.
It's a chilly -2 degrees here tonight, and people have bought their hats, scarves, coats, gloves, sleeping bags, you name it, all to help try and smash last year's £32,000 record. I'm Molly Clayton, reporting for Leeds Hacks News.
Have you managed just to open 2 doors on your advent calendar then?
Well, I have been finding it a bit difficult, and I did have to exercise my willpower yesterday and not eat them all. That's everything for today. Good night.
Good night.